At my wedding, my mother-in-law stormed up to my wife, tore off her wig, and exposed her bald head to everyone. But what happened next made her regret it more than she could have ever imagined. My mother-in-law stormed up the aisle during our vows and ripped the wig off my wife's head. 200 guests gasped, a collective intake of breath that sounded like wind through a tunnel. The photographer's camera clicked reflexively, capturing the exact moment Emma's hands flew to her bare scalp, capturing the shock frozen on her face, the tears already forming in her eyes, the way her mouth opened in a silent scream that I felt in my chest like a physical blow. Emma stood there at the altar of St. Andrew's Chapel on Saturday, May 18, 2024, at 3:47 p.m. in her $30,200 ivory wedding dress from David's Bridal, under an arch of white roses that had cost $800 to construct, surrounded by everyone we loved, and she was bald, completely bald, exposed, humiliated in a way I'd promised her would never happen, in a way she'd feared her entire adult life. My mother-in-law, Patricia Hoffman, age 58, wearing a purple dress that was too formal and too attention-seeking for a mother of the groom, held Emma's wig like a trophy, like she'd just won something. The wig was honey blonde, custom-made, cost $1,400, and looked so natural that most people at our wedding didn't even know Emma wore one. "This is what my son is marrying," Patricia screamed, her voice echoing off the chapel's vaulted ceiling, off the stained glass windows, filling every corner with her cruelty. "A liar, a fraud. She's been deceiving all of you." Emma's hands covered her head, a gesture so automatic, so practiced from years of self-consciousness, and tears were streaming down her face, destroying the makeup it had taken the artist 3 hours to apply. Her shoulders shook. She looked like she wanted the floor to open up and swallow her. I stood there frozen for exactly 3 seconds, speechless, my brain trying to process what had just happened, trying to reconcile the woman who'd smiled at me that morning while adjusting my boutonniere with the woman now holding my fiancé's wig like it was evidence in a trial. Patricia had hated Emma from the moment I'd introduced them 2 years ago. Emma was too plain, too quiet, too ordinary for her precious son, not educated enough. Emma had an associate's degree from community college, not a bachelor's from Patricia's alma mater. Not ambitious enough. Emma worked as a dental hygienist, not a lawyer or doctor. Not wealthy enough. Emma's parents were middle class, her father a retired postal worker, her mother a school secretary. But this was beyond the passive-aggressive comments at family dinners, beyond the subtle digs about Emma's job or her apartment or her clothes. This was calculated cruelty, performed for an audience. Emma had alopecia areata, an autoimmune disorder that had destroyed every hair follicle on her body when she was 16 years old. Eyebrows, eyelashes, everything, gone within 3 months, never to return. The doctors at Northwestern Memorial had called it severe rapid-onset alopecia universalis and told her it was permanent, that she'd need to learn to live with it, that some people find wigs helpful for psychological adjustment. She'd told me about it on our 3rd date, November 14th, 2022, sitting in her car outside my apartment building after we'd seen a movie. She'd cried, quiet, controlled tears that she tried to hide by looking out the window, and said she'd understand if I wanted to stop seeing her, that most guys did once they knew, that it was okay if I wasn't attracted to someone who looked like this. I'd kissed her forehead, told her she was beautiful, told her the wig didn't matter, that her hair or lack of it didn't change who she was. We'd sat in that car for another hour talking about it, about how she'd lost her hair junior year of high school, about the bullying that had followed, about the years of therapy to rebuild her self-esteem, about how she'd learned to feel confident again, but still wore wigs in public because people stared, asked invasive questions, made her feel like a spectacle instead of a person. Patricia knew this. I'd told her 8 months ago in January during a tense conversation at her house in Hinsdale when she'd made a comment about Emma's fake appearance. I'd sat her down, explained Emma's condition, asked her, begged her to be sensitive, to respect Emma's privacy, to not make this a thing. She'd smiled, touched my hand, said, "Of course, sweetheart, I'd never do anything to hurt Emma. I understand how difficult that must be for her." She'd lied, and now she stood there in front of 200 people, my family, Emma's family, our friends from college, our co-workers, people we'd invited to celebrate the happiest day of our lives, holding that wig like a weapon she'd just used. "She's been lying to all of you," Patricia announced, her voice theatrical, performative, like she was delivering a monologue she'd rehearsed, pretending to be something she's not, deceiving my son, deceiving everyone. Emma covered her face with both hands, her whole body shaking with sobs. I could hear her, these small, broken sounds that cut through me like glass. My hands clenched into fists, my jaw locked. Heat flooded my face, not embarrassment, but rage so pure and focused it made my vision sharp, made every detail crystalline. The smirk on Patricia's face, the gasps from the guests, my father-in-law Richard sitting sitting in the front row with his mouth open in shock. My own mother standing up from her seat with her hand over her mouth. "Give it back," I said. My voice came out low, controlled, deadly quiet. Patricia laughed, a bright, cruel sound. "Or what? You'll defend this fraud? This liar who's been tricking you? Give it back." Each word separate, distinct, a command. She looked at the wig in her hands, then at me. Then, deliberately, with a smile, she tossed it on the ground. "On the white runner we'd paid $200 to rent. No, let her stand there as she really is. Let everyone see what you're actually marrying." The chapel was silent, except for Emma's crying and the rustle of 200 people shifting in their seats, uncomfortable, uncertain, watching a disaster unfold in real time. I walked over to Emma, took off my tuxedo jacket, the one I'd rented for $150, the one I'd been so careful with all day, wrapped it around her shoulders, pulled her close, felt her trembling against me. "It's okay," I whispered into her ear, quiet enough that no one else could hear. "I've got you. Just breathe. I've got you." Then I turned to face Patricia, looked at her standing there in her purple dress with her perfectly styled hair and her satisfied expression, like she'd just won something important. "You want to humiliate her?" I said, my voice carrying now, loud enough for the whole chapel to hear. "Fine, let me tell you what real humiliation looks like." I pulled out my phone, iPhone 13, in my pocket where I'd kept it, despite the wedding planner telling me to leave it in the dressing room. Opened my Photos app, found the folder I'd labeled Patricia and had been building for 6 months. "For the past 6 months," I said, holding the phone up so people in the front rows could see, "Patricia has been sending Emma messages, hundreds of them." I swiped to the first screenshot. A text from Patricia to Emma, sent at 11:47 p.m. on December 3rd, 2023. "You're not pretty enough for my son. He's going to realize it eventually." Gasps from the guests. Louder now, people leaning forward. Text messages calling her ugly, worthless, telling her to leave me. I swiped to the next one. December 18th. "You're a burden. He's only with you out of pity." More gasps. Whispers starting now, spreading through the pews like fire. Emails. I swiped again. January 24th. Subject line, "The truth. You're not woman enough for my son. Once he sees the real you, the bald, broken you, he'll leave." Patricia's face had gone from smug to white. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. Voicemails. I pulled up my audio recordings app, found the one I'd saved, pressed play. Patricia's voice filled the chapel, tinny through my phone speaker, but unmistakable. "You're damaged goods, Emma. Deformed. My son deserves someone whole, someone beautiful, someone who doesn't have to hide what they really look like. End this before he figures out what a mistake you are." The chapel erupted, people gasping, exclaiming, my mother actually standing up and shouting, "Patricia, what is wrong with you?" Emma's mother crying in the third row, my best man, Marcus Chen, my college roommate, staring at Patricia with undisguised disgust. I stopped the recording. The silence that followed felt heavy, suffocating. There are 47 more messages just like that. Text, email, voicemail. 6 months of harassment that Emma endured without telling me because she didn't want to cause problems with my family. Patricia's mouth worked soundlessly. She looked around the chapel, at her husband Richard, whose face had gone red, at her sister Margaret, who was staring at her with horror, at the guests who were all turned toward her now, watching, judging. "You want to talk about fraud?" I continued, my voice getting louder, harder. "Let's talk about you, Patricia." I swiped to another folder in my photos, opened a screenshot of a bank statement, held it up. "This is my mother-in-law's personal bank account. She's been stealing from my father's business for 3 years. Patricia lunged forward, actually moved toward me, with her hand outstretched, like she was going to grab my phone. "You have no right, that's private. $47,000, I said loudly, talking over her. "Transferred from Hoffman Construction's operating account to a secret personal account Patricia opened in 2021. Used for what, Patricia? Gambling, shopping, funding your lifestyle while Richard works 60-hour weeks?" Her face turned from white to red, splotchy and uneven. Where did you? Emma's not the only one with secrets. I lowered the phone, looked directly at Patricia. "See, you made a mistake. Last March, remember? You asked Emma to help you organize your tax documents because your regular accountant was out sick and you had a deadline." I could see the moment she remembered, her eyes widening, her hand going to her throat. "You thought Emma was too stupid to notice anything. Too timid to say something even if she did notice. You gave her access to your home office, to your files, to your computer, told her to make sense of the mess while you went to your book club." I pulled up another screenshot. Bank transfers, dates, amounts. Emma found the statements. 2 months ago, $47,000 missing from Richard's business account over 3 years. Small amounts at first, $500 here, $800 there, then bigger, $3,000, $5,000, always transferred to an account Richard didn't know existed. My father-in-law, Richard, stood up from his seat in the front row. His face was purple, his hands shaking. Is this true? His voice cracked on the question. Patricia, is this true? Patricia looked at him, then at me, then at Emma, who'd stopped crying and was watching with red eyes and tear-streaked makeup. It's not, you don't understand. Emma came to me, I continued, not letting her finish. 2 months ago, April 2nd, showed me everything. Bank statements, transfer records. She'd photographed all of it before she left your house. We spent 3 weeks verifying it, talking to a lawyer, debating whether to tell Richard, whether to press charges. You wouldn't, Patricia whispered, but there was no confidence in it now. Just fear. We weren't going to. Emma felt sorry for you. Can you believe that? I looked at Emma, standing beside me in my jacket, her bare head now held high instead of hidden. After everything you'd said to her, every cruel message, every voicemail telling her she wasn't good enough, she still felt sorry for you. Didn't want to ruin your marriage. Didn't want to see you go to jail. Emma stepped forward. My jacket slipped off one shoulder, but she didn't adjust it. She looked at Patricia with eyes that were still red, but no longer crying. I told him not to say anything, she said quietly, her voice steady despite everything. I didn't want to destroy your life, even after everything you'd done to me. Patricia stared at her, speechless. But you couldn't leave well enough alone, Emma continued, her voice getting stronger. You had to humiliate me, in front of everyone, on my wedding day, in the cruelest way possible. She walked over to me, took my phone from my hand, held it up so the whole chapel could see the bank statements on the screen. So now everyone knows. You're a thief, a bully, and a liar. The chapel erupted again, people talking over each other, exclaiming, some standing up to get a better look, phones coming out to take photos of the drama unfolding. Patricia's sister Margaret was shaking her head, saying something to her husband. Emma's father was talking urgently to Emma's mother. My groomsmen were all staring at Patricia, with expressions ranging from shock to disgust. Richard pushed past people in his row, walked up the aisle toward Patricia. For a moment I thought he was going to comfort her, to defend her. Instead, he walked right past her without a word, without even looking at her, and headed for the chapel doors. Richard! Patricia called after him, her voice breaking. Richard, wait! Please! He didn't stop. Didn't turn around. Just pushed through the doors and disappeared. Patricia stood there alone in her purple dress, tears now running down her face, mascara streaking, her hands empty since she'd dropped Emma's wig. She looked around the chapel, at 200 faces watching her, judging her, seeing her for what she really was. You ruined me, she whispered, looking at me. You destroyed my life. No, I said. You did that yourself. You stole from your husband. You harassed my fiancée for 6 months. You humiliated her at our wedding. We just made sure everyone knew about it. I bent down and picked up Emma's wig from the white runner, brushed it off, handed it to Emma. She looked at it in her hands, then at me, then at the 200 people watching us. I don't need it, she said. She set it down on the altar beside her bouquet, white roses and peonies, $200 from the florist, stood there in her wedding dress with her bald head exposed to everyone, and something in her posture changed. Her shoulders went back, her chin lifted. She looked powerful, beautiful, defiant. The chapel went quiet again, but this time it felt different. Not horrified silence, waiting silence. Then my best man Marcus started clapping, slow at first, then faster. Then my sister joined him. Then Emma's friends from the dental office where she worked, Jessica and Amanda and Maria, all standing in their bridesmaid dresses. Then my parents. Then Emma's parents. Soon the whole chapel was applauding, 200 people standing and clapping for Emma, for her courage, for her refusing to hide anymore. Emma smiled, a real smile, not the careful one she used when she was nervous. She looked at me with eyes that were still red but shining now. Ready to get married? I asked. Yes, she said. God, yes. We turned back to the officiant, Pastor James Martinez, who'd been frozen in shock for the last 10 minutes, but now looked like he'd just witnessed something miraculous. "Shall we continue?" he asked. "Please," Emma said. Patricia tried to leave during the ceremony, tried to slip out quietly while Pastor Martinez was reading our vows, while Emma and I were holding hands and looking at each other and saying the words we'd written months ago. But she only made it to the doors before she stopped, because my father-in-law's lawyer was waiting outside, Gerald Thompson, attorney at law, who Richard had apparently called during the chaos and who'd driven straight from his office 20 minutes away. I heard later, from Marcus, who'd slipped out to watch, that Gerald handed Patricia a document right there in the church foyer, a restraining order, separation papers, and a notice that Richard was filing embezzlement charges with the police. Patricia had stood there reading the papers with shaking hands while wedding guests filtered past her to the reception, pretending not to stare but absolutely staring, whispering to each other about what had just happened. Emma and I finished our vows, said "I do," kissed while everyone applauded again, walked back down the aisle as husband and wife, past the empty seat where Patricia should have been sitting, past my father-in-law who'd come back inside and was watching us with tears in his eyes. At the reception, held in the chapel's event hall, decorated with white and gold, $8,000 for the venue and catering, Emma gave a speech. Stood at our table with the microphone in her hand and her bald head catching the light from the chandelier, and she told everyone, "Thank you for staying, thank you for supporting us, thank you for seeing past the drama to celebrate with us." Then she said, "I've hidden my alopecia for 12 years, worn wigs because I was scared of being judged, scared of being seen as less than, scared of being treated differently. But today," she paused, looked at me. "Today someone tried to use my condition to humiliate me, and instead, all of you showed me that I've been hiding from people who wouldn't have cared anyway. So I'm done hiding. This is me, and if you have a problem with it, there's the door." No one left. 200 people stayed for the whole reception, danced to the DJ we'd hired for 200 days, ate the chicken dinner we'd selected, and toasted to our marriage. Patricia faced charges. Richard filed for divorce 3 days later and pressed charges for embezzlement. The police investigation, handled by Detective Maria Rodriguez, White Collar Crimes Division, found evidence of $52,000 stolen over 3 years, more than we'd initially thought. Patricia's lawyer tried to argue it was a misunderstanding, a bookkeeping error, but the evidence was too clear. She pleaded guilty 6 months later, got 18 months in prison and 5 years probation, had to pay full restitution. Richard apologized to Emma, sent flowers, tried to visit. Emma accepted the apology but set boundaries. We'd have a relationship with him, but it would be on our terms, at our pace. Emma stopped wearing wigs. Just stopped, the day after our wedding. Went to work bald, went grocery shopping bald, went everywhere as herself. Some people stared. Some asked questions, she answered them. Most people she found didn't care as much as she'd feared. We got our wedding photos back from the photographer, the ones we'd worried would be ruined by the drama. They weren't. The best shot was of Emma at the altar after she'd taken off my jacket, after she'd set down her wig, standing in her wedding dress with her bald head held high, and this expression on her face like she'd just conquered something. We had it printed as a 24x36 canvas and hung it in our living room. People still ask about it, about our wedding, about what happened. Emma tells them, not the sanitized version, not the version that makes Patricia sympathetic, but the truth. That sometimes the people who should support you are the ones who hurt you most. That sometimes standing up for yourself means burning bridges. That sometimes justice looks like exposing someone's cruelty and their crimes in front of everyone they know. And that sometimes the worst moment of your life becomes the moment you stop hiding and start living. Patricia sent one letter from prison, 6 months into her sentence. Said she was sorry, that she'd been jealous of Emma, that she'd struggled with control issues and gambling addiction, and had taken it out on the wrong person. Emma read it once and put it in a drawer. Didn't respond, didn't forgive. Some people don't deserve mercy. They deserve exactly what they give. And Patricia had given humiliation in front of 200 witnesses, had given months of harassment, had given theft and lies and cruelty. So that's what she got back. Her secrets exposed, her reputation destroyed, her marriage ended, her freedom taken. Emma and I marked our 1-year anniversary at the same chapel where we got married, renewed our vows. Shorter ceremony this time, just family and close friends. Patricia notably absent. Emma wore a different dress and no wig, and smiled the whole time. Afterward, someone asked if she'd ever forgiven Patricia. "No," Emma said simply, "and I'm okay with that. Because some betrayals are too calculated, too cruel to forgive. Some people reveal exactly who they are when they think they have power over you, and the kindest thing you can do is believe them, and make sure everyone else sees it too."